Hey, this is Billy from bestpokersites.net with my 9 top tips for playing heads-up poker. Now, heads-up is a format which has become hugely popular in the last few years, partly because of really big events like the National Heads-Up Championship, which offers a cool $500,000 for first place. But of course, playing heads-up poker is not all about playing the big heads-up events. Any time that you play a tournament, whether it's a $5 sit and go online or the $10,000 main event at the World Series, if you want to win the event, you're going to have to get heads up when it gets down to those last 2 players. So bearing that in mind, let's take a look at my top 9 tips and see if we can improve your heads up play. Okay, tip number 1 is all about position. Position is hugely important in any form of poker, but the difference here is that in heads up you're going to be in position 50% of the time. In fact, every single hand you're either going to be on the button or in the big blind, and you need to take advantage of that. When you've got position over your opponent, when you can see their action before you make a decision, it gives you a huge advantage and it allows you to really keep the pressure on and make the right plays. Okay, tip number 2 is about being aggressive. It's really important to be very aggressive and keep the pressure on when you're playing heads up. Before the flop, the chances are your opponent doesn't have a strong hand, and even if they do have a hand like, I don't know, ace king, they're only going to pair that on the flop about 1 out of every 3 times. So it's easy to see how being very aggressive can allow you to steal the blinds and force your opponent out of a hand. After all, if you don't raise, you don't give your opponent that opportunity to fold. So stay aggressive and you'll win more pots. Okay, tip number 3 is pot control. It's a mathematical fact that you're going to have the weakest hand 50% of the time. But winners in poker know that by maximising the size of their winnings and minimising their losses, that they'll be a winning player. If you think you've got a winning hand, you want to try and get more money into the pot. If you think that you've got a marginal hand, try to keep the pot small so that you're risking less and you'll be in a better position to take your opponent down when the opportunity arises. Okay, tip number 4 is all about reading your opponent. So early on in the game you want to be looking to see what type of opponent you're against and what sort of plays they're likely to be making. Ask yourself questions. Is this opponent likely to be making a strong raise with a flush draw? Perhaps they'll be checking when they've got a monster hand trying to trap you, and you want to learn these plays early on in the game so that later on you can use those to your advantage. Tip number 5 is all about adapting your own plays. It's no good reading your opponent if you don't manage to adapt to take advantage of that. So if your opponent's being too tight, then you can probably raise more and force them to fold. If they're being too loose, then you can probably just flat call. Basically, you want to adapt your play to take advantage of how they're making their own plays. Okay, tip number 7 is knowing when to fold. It's all very well being aggressive, but if you're raising with a marginal hand and you're sensing a lot of aggression and you're getting re-raised by your opponent, then at some point you're going to have to make a decision to fold. It's better to fold a marginal hand and lose a small pot and wait for a better opportunity when you can take your opponent down. Tip number 7 is all about bluffing. Now, the bluff of course is central to poker, and it's most effective when you're against a small number of opponents, which makes it ideal for using in a heads-up situation. Now, you don't want to just bluff randomly. Look for good opportunities when a bluff is likely to work. For example, if 2 diamonds hit on the flop and a 3rd diamond hits on the turn, now might be a good time to put in a large raise. Hopefully your opponent will put you on a flush. Even if they've made a flush themselves, unless it's the nuts, chances are that you might get them to lay down a monster hand. Tip number 8 is about being unpredictable. Now, while it's important for us to be trying to figure out what our opponent's plays are, they're going to be doing the same thing to us. So we want to be varying our play, changing the size of our bets, even changing the amount of time we think about making a play. We want to make it as difficult as possible for our opponent to put us on a hand which will give us an advantage. And finally, tip number 9 is about learning and studying, and specifically from learning from our mistakes. Unfortunately, no matter how good you are, you're not going to win every heads-up match, but the good thing is you can learn more from your mistakes than you can from winning. So what I like to do is, as quickly as possible after playing a game, is go back over some of those hands in my mind, think about the plays I made, where I could have improved, what my opponent was doing, and how I can use that information to my advantage next time. So there we go, that's my top 10 tips for playing heads up. I like to play heads up at Full Tilt Poker. If you don't play there and you want to get a $600 bonus, then use the bonus code BCP Full Tilt at fulltiltpoker.com. You can follow me at twitter.com/pokerfella, and you'll find more videos, articles, tips and reviews at www.bestpokersites.net.